My name is Ellie, and this is for Joseph. I'm glad she mentioned this bit about Hitler, okay? And people are concerned about when is this transition going to take place. And I feel you, by abdicating or not being a leader, is slowing the transition. Because when you look at Gandhi, Martin Luther King, or even Hitler, the things that those people accomplished were the group following them. And I think if you took back a role as a leader for at least a while until it really gets going, because you've got a lot of stuff to say that just blew me away, and I could see all these other people completely change their way of thinking of the world. And I feel you should reconsider your role.
That's very kind. I will continue to talk and promote, but it puts, it's easy, it's too easy for people out there, given the mentality that we have, say, with the President of the United States. Everyone wants to look up to somebody and assume that somebody else is going to take the reins. As I alluded to earlier, if you want a free society, you need an educated society. You need a society that, over the course, on average, the medium of thought is shared and sophisticated enough where no one needs to rely on other people to think for them and make the decisions for them. That's what a true democracy would be if there was such a thing. And that's the danger. And I really appreciate your comment. I'm not stopping what I do. But I have to, for my own safety, the safety of my family, because if I get more and more well known, I've had, you wouldn't believe the obnoxious harassment I've had, both live and online, or they tried to blame Jared Loughner, his actions on my first film. Did you see that? that was amusing to say the least. Nevertheless, these are dangerous things out there. I don't have any money. It's like if something happens to me to where like someone tries to really gang up on me with a lot of money, I'm doomed. These are things that I think about. I'm in a very fragile state personally, and sadly enough, I do have to think about that for my own survival as I want to live and be normal and all those basic things. So I'm not a martyr. I'm not going to sacrifice myself. Either people wake up and they begin. It's not that hard to talk about these things, by the way. Granted, I think I've gone through this stuff more than a lot of people have, but I've done an enormous amount of communication, as I think you've noticed. And if people go back and listen to the 2 years of Q&A I did at Blog Talk Radio, you'll pretty much have every question ever answered. And then to articulate yourself, like you, my friend, you just be able to have confidence in speaking about these things, and you become the leader, as Gandhi pointed out. I think Gandhi, he knew what he had to do, and he suffered greatly for it. And also simultaneously, after he was taken out, just like King was taken out, you could see the immediate psychological ramification of those that followed, a complete loss of hope. And that's a dangerous place to be. We want to get beyond that.
I still feel that you're slowing the transition down by not taking a big leadership role.
He's still a very large influence.
I got that. But
What do you want me to do?
be a leader.
I've given an enormous number of talks the past year, and odds are I probably won't stop. But I have a job as a leader, if you want to put it in this context, to present myself as not the leader to force others to step up.
As we're wrapping up, I just wanted to quickly add to that we're talking about a socially sustainable system as well, and for that it's not going to be by force. To have this carry on and have it not be by force, which is what we really don't want, because that would mean it's not sustainable if you have to force somebody to do it. It means that everybody has to really want it, which means everybody has to be educated for themselves. And we need to really, we're enabling people if they have to be spoon-fed information. They really need to become a self-directed learner, and we need to set the example. And I think it's wonderful that this movement encourages all sorts of people to stand up where they are and just talk about these ideas.
Right. Absolutely.
This is the last question, okay? We gotta wrap things up.
So you mentioned, Peter, going through the Blog Talk Radio, all those recordings to kind of get the answers. So that raised the question in my mind of, where did you get, what was your source? Like, if I wanted to go to the source, You're kind of like the source, but what's the source of the source?
Well, that's an enormous question. You enter down the rabbit hole of influence. Obviously, with the start of the movement, Jacques Fresco is a pivotal influence on all of this, and that's obvious. And then you track Jacques Fresco. We'll take this on a case-by-case basis. Let's assume that Jacques Fresco was the only influence. Who influenced Jacques Fresco? Well, there's a massive spectrum of people that influenced Jacques Fresco. Who influenced, say, Buckminster Fuller, who obviously influenced Jacques Fresco? There's an enormous number of people. You have to really harness the train of thought and start to navigate the relationships. If you read books a lot, this is what I did. All the books I read, I look at who they source, and then I read their books. And like an enormous tree, you branch out with every book. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of time. I'm working on my speed reading course. But that's how I do it. I read books and I reference their sources because everyone's interlinked in the group mind. No one's originating anything on their own. That's a very important thing for people to understand too.
Do you have a bibliography?
I wish I did, actually. That's something that will be in the new orientation guide that we're putting together. I don't have one at the moment. It's so enormous, though, the bibliography, that it's really daunting. And it's almost kind of a waste of time after a certain point. Because I've read so many things, I get to the end, I'm like, well, that was easy enough to surmise. Because people write things for different purposes and different motivations to sell things. You find an author that's written 25 books, odds are they're repeating themselves a lot just for the sake of having an industry there. So little caveats there. I wish I could give you a better answer, but ultimately the new orientation is specifically designed to go through a point-by-point reference, and each essay, which will be about 40 that comprise the whole thing, will have denotated sources that are most relevant based on my research, and then the rabbit hole goes from there.
So we'll be able to kind of go down the rabbit hole from getting to the
Yes,
source.
my whole guide with the new source guide is, the whole goal of the new source guide is multidimensional. It's not only just as an orientation, it's also to give a gateway to the information sourced in it, to represent. So, the worst thing is to read a book that has no sources. It's not going to try to be more crazy than that. And then to also enable people to build up on this and it to be obvious enough where they can begin to communicate it very easily. So I'm trying to reduce how heady I can be sometimes and really break that language down so it's more comprehensible.
I would just say, once you get that list, maybe make a personal challenge to try to find something not on it that also applies. Just so that you're branching out and having other things to contribute.
Well, reading something now that I think applies.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, and in the meantime, there's a reading list that we have going too. It's got lists a bunch of books and research material.
And where is that?
It's on the United States.
Zeitgeist Movement website, it's on the state site, it's linked in a lot of the state sites that we have.
Yeah, I just want to say in conclusion of it, the source is inside all of us here, Go back, go to the website, go to everything Jason said. As PJ said, go back and look at all the information that's there, and then really just think about it. Okay, and the source will just start flowing out of you, and you will just start perceiving and understanding the world in a different way like you never did before. I know that Joe of 1994 wouldn't even recognize or be able to have a conversation with the Joe of 2012. So where did that come from? Yes, I read books. Yes, I listened to different things or what have you. But really where it came from was my ability to start critically asking questions about things that are in front of me that I deal with every day. And you'll begin to see incredible inefficiencies, and everything that we're talking about here suddenly just crystallizes and makes so much sense, and you feel inspired to tell others about it. So the source, I know, is inside all of you. You're all geniuses, you're all very intelligent, you've just been in a system that isn't, and so it's time to turn it on. Thank you.